Hello, fortune hunters. Tom Wilmot with a croaky voice after 3 weeks or 4 weeks with bronchitis. Jeez Louise, today we're going to teach you how to install and use that popular indicator, Trend Magic. Welcome to our Forex fortune hunting YouTube channel, Vineyard FX. Okay, let's get started. We're going to take a look at the pound-dollar pair because as well as trying to teach you about Trend Magic, I thought it would be a great opportunity to take a look at the volatility surrounding the Brexit exit vote in Parliament, which flopped big time for Prime Minister May. In any event, take a look at the previous day's volatility. We had on Friday of last week. By the way, I'm recording this on Wednesday, the 16th of January 2019, after the vote in Parliament Tuesday evening, London time. Notice that on Friday, in between these dotted lines, we had an uptick in the pound-dollar pair values. We went into the weekend. This was the weekend when it was maintained, and then we had a slight pullback with our medallion indicator I'll talk about in a second, then a reversal and a new high peak on Monday in the U.S. session, or just before it, and then a pullback again. And then on Tuesday, we ended up a double top situation here, and then finally a big time medallion rollover and a decrease, and we'll talk about it. It's not our point today to make us look real smart in terms of going back to the left-hand side of the chart. We want to just compare Trend Magic to some of the indicators that we currently use. Okay, so let's make this a little bit bigger so that we can actually see what's going on. By the way, this particular line here is T3 Tilson, which I use as a smooth moving average. This particular one I believe is set to 38. And down here I have an RSI, a relative strength indicator, and I put a band in the middle of it, 45 to 55, and I found over the years that using this as an opportunity to test whether you really have a pullback potential to reverse the trend is interesting. Notice here we pull up into the bands but fail, whereas here we have a shooting star headed straight skyward. Okay, notice that in our existing system, our medallion, which is a 1224 rollover, pointing to the downside here, to the upside here. You wouldn't want to take a counter trend trade in this particular position. Wait until you see the rollover, and then wait for a pullback into the bands. And here we go with our indicator coming up into the 45-55 and then failing. That's this particular candle right here. Let's make it even bigger so you can see it. Okay, so here we are with our trend, and now what we want to do is take a look and see if we can identify the Trend Magic indicator in our list and inventory of resources. So first thing we're going to do is come over here to the File menu, open Data Folder, Critical Place. This is where all of your indicators and templates are going to be stored. That's simply the file system of the underlying operating system, not necessarily MetaTrader, but a couple years back they put this folder here so that it'd be easier to find your indicators and expert robots. Okay, so click on MetaTrader. MetaTrader on MQL4. Here's our indicators folder, and you can see all the indicators I have here, some of which are provided by the broker in a default package, and others you can find on the internet, or in this particular case with Trend Magic, it's one that MetaQuote software is in fact pressing pretty big. So here we have Trend Magic. Notice we have an executable file here, and Trend Magic, an MQL4 source file here. So if you can only find the source file online, just load it into this thing. If there's nothing here, simply download that file to your desktop, then click on it, copy it, and hide it here in TrendMagic MQL4. That's the source file. Then once you restart MetaTrader, it will create an executable file, and that's what you need to go forward. So if you don't have it, please feel free to email me at info@fxfortunehunter.com. I'll be happy to send you to my Dropbox location for a copy of it. It's also available from MetaTrader, and it's also probably in one of the forums on forexfactory.com. Okay, so now what we're going to do, because I have such a long list of indicators, really if I go here to insert indicators, that list of custom indicators goes right off my chart. So I'm going to go to View, I'm going to go to Navigator, and in fact that way I can see my list of indicators here. If I make this smaller, you can see expert advisors and scripts like close all and so forth. Indicators back down here. There we go. And here we'll take the TrendMagic, click on it, left click, and then drag it to our chart. Let's see, I've made it quite thick, 3, so that you'd be able to see today. It's now added to our chart, and now we can see that on that first press forward to the double top on Tuesday, the white line here, which follows our upward facing bands, did show us a nice trade, potentially even here in the early morning hours. Asian session, we had 21 pips to the north after we pulled back and touched the line. I like to wait until we get a pullback into this set of bands and or the TrendMagic indicator. That way you can tell your stop loss should be fitting down in this place here. If it completely crashes, notice the change over here from white to red. And notice that in fact, as our bands are twisting and as we cross over the T3 Tilson, we're also in sync with the TrendMagic because we now have a red downward facing line. Okay, next issue. Where do we want to get into the trade? Well, anywhere in this general vicinity, but I like to wait until we have this, as I said, this pullback into the TrendMagic line or into my bands. And also this is a confirmation, a pullback into the 45.55 without being able to penetrate and go higher. So notice that if we were in this area, we could have our stop loss right here between the top of this bar and the T3 Tilson. We would have a situation where that would be about 28 pips from the entry level, but no matter. Even if you were to simply say right above that, you could cut that in half and make it 15 or something of that sort. We came down, we came back, but never threatened the TrendMagic line or the bands. We did touch briefly again here, so this would be another one of the perfectly legitimate entry points. And after that trade was done, we ended up with 144 to 150 pips in terms of our downward thrust on that particular move. And that's pretty good because we've got, say, if it's 15 or 20 pips even on the pullback and the stop loss level, which was never really threatened, you never really felt much heat at all, you have a 5-to-1 ratio of risk to reward, and that's a terrific ratio. It's obvious too that, to me at least, that while we had a huge retracement of the values after the announcement of the vote failure in Parliament, what we also notice is that it's easier to trade in advance of one of these huge fundamental announcements. Nobody knows what the outcome is going to be. Nobody has any better facts than you. And so as a result of that, whether it's a jobs report or the Brexit vote or some kind of fundamental announcement from a central bank or economic indicators, it's easier to get into a trade and make money from it prior to the craziness that occurs here. Who knows what's going on in this particular area? All the basic banks and investment houses were predicting a decline in the pound value if the turnout on the vote was as predicted. But notice also here, from the perspective of TrendMagic, a move right through the 45.55, a significant smash through the TrendMagic indicator, And from that point forward, a little bit of a pullback here, but a white line showing us that we were headed higher. We had some overnight funny business here, and we've basically been trading in a balanced range since the time of the announcement. So once again, from a trading perspective, I suggest that maybe you do something in advance of the announcement. When you get the dramatic moves, just wait a day, go play golf, go to the gym, have an extra cup of coffee, and just observe how the balancing takes place. So I hope that helps, and look forward to seeing you in the next video.